Hello, friends. Welcome to today's episode of the Daily Coffee Pro. Today, we are talking about gatekeepers. We are talking about the gatekeepers of our industry and what's cool and what's a fad, and what we should like and what we shouldn't like, and how you should brew your coffee and how you shouldn't brew your coffee. And it seems that for as long as our industry has existed, this seems to be ever changing. And it's ever changing based on who is the person with the most influential voice. So today what I want to talk about is how reasonable that is, and whether we should start thinking about taking active measures to change that for ourselves as individuals. If you haven't seen James Hoffmann's latest video, Can You Trust My Reviews? I encourage you to go and see it. I've included a link in the show notes below. You will notice that I have a particular interest in this video because James talks about Elixir in this video as an example of the point he's trying to make in his video. The consequence of that happening came from a number of discussions that James and I had, and we will talk about it on the podcast together at a later date. But for today, I want you to go and look at that video and ask yourself a bunch of questions about the video after looking at or listening to this video. 2020 has invited our industry to question what's important and how we make decisions. What is the basis and the foundation of how we make decisions? And what are we looking to get out of what we decide is good or bad or right or wrong or any of those things? Should I brew a coffee this way? Should I brew it a different way? This person says this is what you should be drinking. Another person says, no, you shouldn't be drinking naturals. Then the next day they've changed their mind, and etc., etc. We all know how this goes. Fundamentally, our industry is built on a changing of the guard of gatekeepers who determine and influence what you should like and what you shouldn't like. And you'll know by now that my big thing that I advocate for is independent thinking, and this is the main reason why. It's because the more people we have thinking independently, the less need we have for gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are people who determine what will and will not work based on what they decide. That's an extraordinary amount of power for an industry that generates hundreds of billions of dollars each year worth of business. If a product comes out and you look to an influencer, and I'm not specifically talking about James, I'm talking about a bunch of people in our industry, and we all know who they are. They don't need to be named. If we look to them to tell us whether the products or the coffee or the people or whatever it is are approved by them, we're missing a huge opportunity. Because when we give that power over to them, what we don't hear about is who and what are the products and ideas that don't make it past that gatekeeper. And which of those products and those coffees and those people that, had they have been given the opportunity to make it past those gatekeepers, could have changed and influenced our industry for the better, could have changed and influenced our value chain for the better, could have changed and influenced your business and your career for the better. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't have people who inform us about what the options are out there. James and I are friends. James is an incredibly intelligent, charismatic man. But as James will tell you, James is not without flaws. Just as I am not without flaws. I would suggest this, having known James and knowing myself, we are constantly working to do better, to minimize the flaws that we have. None of the things that we talk about or recommend are done with a hidden agenda. If I'm ever supporting a product, I will always tell you if it's a sponsorship or it's not a sponsorship. James says in the video that he released, he does the same. So transparency is incredibly important to us. And this is one way that you can determine if the people that you are taking cues from to expose you to ideas and products are informing you rather than gatekeeping information from you. So what we need to avoid in our industry is gatekeepers, and rather have people who have a vested interest in disseminating information that could benefit everybody, not just financially benefit them because they've been paid to set a certain narrative. For an industry that supports a product that is so ancient and has been drunk for millennia, it's surprising that the professionalization of this industry is so young and so adolescent. And the transition of that adolescence into adulthood is going to require us to start thinking more independently and relinquishing the power that we hand over to gatekeepers and influencers. And so, given all the security and the yummy feelings that people who are famous and people who get paid to endorse products have. I mean, speak to anyone who is an Instagram influencer and you will, which I am not, but I have had fame in the music industry and I am well familiar with what this feeling is like. And they will tell you that it can be delicious. But the trapping of that delicious feeling is that you have to increase the threshold of it constantly. And so once you become the gatekeeper of something, you're influenced in different ways away from integrity. You're influenced away from being authentic. You're influenced away from being objective. And you start making decisions based on how many likes you get, how much people are prepared to pay you to speak about a product, and you're no longer being honest with yourself and with your audience. And being a gatekeeper ultimately does a disservice to an industry. The only way we're going to change this is by no longer requiring gatekeepers to be the people who determine what is cool, what is appropriate, what is something that we like, and all the other kinds of things that we need to have our industry evolve into something that we want it to be a part of. So, be your own gatekeeper. You personally decide what you like, what you don't like, what you want to support, what you don't want to support, what you think tastes good, what you think does not taste good. And as scary as that may be, embrace it. Really embrace it. It is very freeing and very rewarding when somebody asks you what you like and you can genuinely tell them why you like this thing, not just because X person said you should like it. It leads to better conversations. It leads to deeper connections. It leads to you being around people who think for themselves. And I don't know about you, but that's my people. And I want to find more people like that. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.